Her name was Kira Hundley, and she was my best friend Michael's little sister. Little. That's a misleading statement. Kira was only 17, 3 years younger than Michael, but she looked every bit the part of someone who was at least 21. She was a really sweet kid, but there was also a side to her that I don't think her parents or even her brother knew anything about, and I just know that it was that personal side of hers that led to what happened. To put it plainly, Kira was a masterful flirt. She was a kid in a woman's body, which made her a problem, but if you combine that with the fact that she had the sexuality of a Cardi B/Nicki Minaj hybrid, then you'd understand where I'm coming from. I can't count how many times and how many stories I've heard about her luring poor guys in with her coquettish nature. Kira got a sick enjoyment out of having older guys wrapped around her tiny finger. Maybe she was a young up-and-coming temptress coming into her own, or maybe she was just a naive kid who loved all the attention and adoration she commanded. But I don't think for 1 second she realized her flirtatious behavior would eventually attract the wrong element. She went missing a month or so back. Her parents and Michael initially thought she was off goofing around with her friends, but as the hours went on and countless calls went unanswered on her cell phone, their panic began to mount. By the next day, cops were out looking for her. To be proactive, Michael and his parents put a search party of their own together. Unfortunately, neither the cops nor the 200+ volunteers were ever able to find a single trace of Kira, despite searching for her for days and questioning anyone who may have had contact with her. Weeks later, the news everyone dreaded to hear eventually came. Kira's body was found in an open field about 60 miles from her home. It had been determined that she'd been strangled to death. As far as I know, police still have no leads in Kira's case. Her parents have put up a $100,000 reward for anyone with information that leads to the capture of her killer. It's a really sad case. Kira was so young, she had her whole life ahead of her, and now she's gone. It pains me to see Michael and his family nowadays. They're so heartbroken over their loss, they hardly ever leave their mansion on the hill anymore. And that's not the only issue that troubles me. I just so happen to have information that would not only expose Kira's killer, but also give her family the justice they so desperately seek, and possibly make me $100 grand richer in the process. Problem is, I don't think I can collect that money from a prison cell. Who killed my best friend's sister? Well, I did. Why'd I do it? Because I couldn't take it anymore. I watched Kira grow up, and during that time I fell in love with her. But all she saw when she looked at me was another guy she could tease and manipulate and keep hooked on the string. I asked her out on dates more times than I can count, and she always blew me off. The day she went missing, I stopped at their house to hang out with Michael, but he wasn't home. Only Kira was. She let me in and told me I could wait for him. Meanwhile, she went out to their pool for a swim. Thinking this was the perfect opportunity for us to have a heart-to-heart chat, I sat poolside talking with her, but she wasn't interested in shit I had to say. She was, however, interested in having me take a picture of her for her Instagram page, so I did. This ended up being the last picture she would ever take. She looked so hot. I felt more compelled than ever to kiss her as she sat beside me at the edge of the pool to examine the picture I had just taken of her. She shoved me off and donned a disgusted look on her face, and for me that was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of her mind games. She flirted with me all the time, but whenever I made a move to get closer to her, she treated me like I was some kind of creep. She constantly went out with scumbags, but for some reason, I wasn't good enough for her to give me that same chance. And that's when I snapped. I just lost it. I wrapped my hands around her throat and began squeezing with all my might. I didn't mean to kill her, I was just upset. But before I knew it, her wide, terrorized eyes suddenly became lifeless and her body totally limp. I knew I'd gotten myself into a world of shit, and I feared Michael or his parents would walk out to the pool at that precise moment and find me standing over Kira's body. But luckily for me, they didn't. I packed Kira into the trunk of my car and drove her to a spot that I felt was far enough away for me to buy some time to strengthen my composure. By the time the cops got around to questioning me, I had already convinced myself of my innocence. It's been a couple of years now, and the police are still no wiser. I've committed the perfect crime, but it's not like I can go around bragging about this shit. I hate that I won't be able to get my hands on that reward money, but hey, what can you do? What should bother me even more than that, though, is the fact that I comforted Kira's family at her funeral, and continue to do so to this very day, knowing full well I'm her killer. I even go out with Michael and his parents when they make their yearly visit to her gravesite to celebrate her birthday. Strangely, being there with them as they mourn doesn't seem to have the slightest effect on me. I keep the last picture I took of Kira under my pillow. She never got a chance to post it or share it, so I feel a special kind of sentiment knowing my eyes are the only ones to ever see it. I call it a special form of remembrance, but I'm sure there are FBI profilers somewhere that would call it a trophy, like I'm some sick, demented mind who needs a souvenir. And so what if I am? Nobody's perfect.